How you doing? Good? Awesome. I thought you guys were Anglican. I thought you didn't respond. I'm having so much fun. I need to do something. I'm speaking a new wine. It's so cool. I'm so excited. And when you hear my story, you're going to think, how on earth did she get on that stage? You're going to ask Lydia, don't you interview your people before they get on? And you know what? Who's having a ball here today? Yeah. That's really cool. The first thing I noticed was I met Minnie. Who knows Minnie? Mum to the universe. She's got a superpower of being a mum, and when I walked in and she said hello, she had me at hello. And all I could feel like she could be mum to the whole world and still have enough left to make breakfast for Papa. Isn't that cool? And then I met Jen and Thomas. I thought this is crazy, but Jen made us homemade pasta. You guys yeah? I was like, no, you don't understand. I buy pasta, And so I just thought, what an incredible lot of people that have come together to see God just touch as many people as possible. And, I thought I was just here to bring some color to the conference. I won't tell you who said that. But when I heard that, I thought, well, let me double the color. I'll bring my husband. And we're not little people, so we really brought color to the conference today. And I've been doing, me and Dad and my hubby, we've just been doing our thing in workshop number 3, and just people coming in. And I just love it because it's like they come in and they've got this, wow, we're going to learn how to prophesy, and God's going to do these amazing things. And then they come in and I'm like, hi, let's see what we should do today. What should we do? And I've got Post-it notes. And I'm getting them to think of the first word that comes into their mind and write it on the Post-it note, then stick it on each other. So we've got people walking around with Post-it notes. It's as easy as that. He is such a generous God that he doesn't set us up and make us sit an exam. He doesn't give us toys without instructions. He just gives us toys with his Holy Spirit and say, have fun, go for it. I just came from, not Blazing Saddles, Blazing Ahead. Showing my age. And you know how people say kids are cute? These kids are scary. Now, I didn't have kids of my own, and so I was really afraid to walk in. But there are people in there with superpowers who are just born to have kids. And so I walk in and I'm talking about God's superpowers and about how my superpower seems to be prophecy. And so I asked them, what are your superpowers? And one kid puts his hand up and says, biting. I was like, wow, that's amazing. I can see the teeth too. And another one goes, mine is screaming. I was like, I'm glad you're not my kid. So I was just talking to them about superpowers and about what God can tell them. And God starts dropping things, and God tells me, there's some kids in here who have trouble reading, that when they look at words, it gets all jumbled, and one of them gets all fuzzy in the brain, and people go too fast. So I'm saying this, and the kids, they're just in their own world, and I'm thinking, Lord, how do I engage these kids? And then one of the people with the orange, what are they called? Leaders. So I'm prophetic, but my English is just really bad. And they come up and they tell me that there's a little girl there who needed prayer for her eyesight and to help her read, and she gets fuzzy, and teachers get impatient with her. How cool is that? Yeah. That's pretty cool. And so I was teaching them about hearing God and speaking and what God tells them, and then God told me, tell them to pray for healing for your ankle. I said, okay. So I just said to them, I want everyone to shout out, God heal Super Jazz's ankle. That's my Blazing Ahead name, is Super Jazz. So God heal Super Jazz's ankle. And so they all shouted it, and they all pointed to my ankle, and instantly the pain left. Yeah, really cool. I wanted to test it out by jumping when the worship was going on, but I remembered that if the music stops and your body's still moving, you shouldn't do it. That's just for free, that one. But you know what? No pain. So I've given them more homework. I said, okay, kids, you got homework. And they went, oh. I said, oh, that's right. And I said, your homework is to look for sick people and tell God to heal them. Not ask God, but just tell him. Because he told us to go do it. So you can tell him, do it through us. So if you're not well in the place, look for an 8 to 10-year-old and ask them to tell God to heal you. How good is that? Anyway, a little bit about me. Actually, I'm going to talk about love. I love love songs. Who likes love songs? Yeah, I used to sing to my hairbrush. And we didn't grow up in a Christian environment. We grew up in a very religious, brought up on lockdown environment. So I listened to a lot of love songs and imagined myself as Whitney Houston. So I'd sing Saving All My Love for You. And when I grew up, I realized she was singing about having an affair. So I was thinking, okay, maybe that wasn't the best song for me to sing. And then I liked the song Secret Lover until I realized that was the same topic. I was like, what on earth is going on here? So today I'm here to tell you about how love cried out to me and finally got me to respond. I want to talk to you about he who is love and how he made his way with his perfect hand through my messy world, and he picked me up. You know, I've been a big girl all my life, and one of my dreams is that I would meet somebody who could pick me up, or the big people who could pick me up and just go, wee! So I'm looking for volunteers. No? Oh my gosh. So that's why, that's why I'm in love with my husband. That's not the only reason why. But he's not a little guy, and God gave me Naoma as a result of my first marriage failure. I know. They're like, Lydia, she's the divorcee. Like, what's going on here? Just chill, just cool it. And I just remember when Naoma and I were set up, we were a blind date. So I had gone through a really abusive marriage in the beginning of my early 20s and stuff. And I was just coming through, and I was in ministry by now. I'd given my life back to Jesus. And I said to God, you know what, Dad? Cancel the prayer about me having a companion. You know what? I love who I'm becoming. I love what I do. Me and you, let's just go save the world. Let's just go. So I had just released that prayer of, I'm happy, I'm beautiful, I'm hot, I'm good, I love you, I'm loving me, let's go save the world. And this flippin' Indian lady gets up with a prophetic word. And she goes, I have a word for you. God is preparing somebody for you. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Everyone always says, Jesus is your husband. I was like, if I get married to Jesus one more time, I'm going to scream. Because let's face it, I love Jesus, but he doesn't actually come down and go, wee! Yeah, and he doesn't pay for my movie ticket and stuff. Well, he does sort of, but... So this lady goes, he's a big man. So I'm like, big as in muscular? Or how big? And she looks around the room and she looks at her husband and she goes, 10 times the size of my husband. I'm like, is he a gorilla? Am I marrying a gorilla? And then she goes, and he has a father's heart. And I'm like, boring. I want to marry Vin Diesel. Because I had just seen the movie Triple X. I'm so spiritual that way. And Vin Diesel, he can ride a bike. I can't even ride a bike. Okay, that's a different story. But he's exciting and he's full of life and he travels the world and he does crazy things and I want to marry Vin Diesel. You're going to marry a gorilla with a father's heart. And I'm like, oh, this sounds really stink. Sounds really, really boring. A year and a half later, my sister and her bestie goes, would you like to meet my cousin? I was like, oh, what for? And he goes, I don't know, you might be interested in him. So I was in my late 30s at the time, and so I thought, you know what? Here's a clue. If you're single in the house, you don't have to marry the first man you date. Sometimes we're like, we'll set you up on a date, and already we've got the wedding dress. So I'm like, okay, whoa, horsey. Back the dress, back in the cupboard. Let's just learn how to talk to a guy again. Let's just get back on that dating bandwagon and just see how it goes. At least make a friend. Mike taught me that. That's his favorite. But I think I'm a bit pretty. I think to my husband, I wouldn't mind one of those shirts. They look really free. Anyway. And so we got set up, and he's a real shy guy, and so I'm preaching at a conference, praying for people, and everybody knows that I'm going on a blind date afterwards. Everyone except for Nauma. Nauma's his name. And so I'm getting ready, and they're testing my sister, who's at the conference with me. He's going to go home because he's real shy and he's a real homeboy, so he just wants to go home. And my sister says, oh, do you mind? Like, she's praying for people? Just try and hold him there. So we finish, and we go to the Papatoi Kozi Club, one of the most anointed places in South Auckland. So we walk in, and Sexy Eyes is playing, and my hair, GHDs have just come out, so I had long straight hair, so, I was just like, whoo, in the wind. I was a vision of beauty. I still am, just a bit frizzy because I didn't bring it, my GHD. And I walk into the bar, and they meet me at the bar, at the door, and they said, okay, Nauma's over there. He doesn't drink, he doesn't dance, he doesn't talk. And I'm like, sound boring. Why are you setting me up for someone boring? And he goes, oh, and he just smokes. And I was like, okay. So I walked over, I sat down, and if you ever talk to my husband, as for the big guy that he is, he talks really quietly. And so he's like talking really quietly, so I have to use my prophetic skills to try and hear him. But they weren't really working while Sexy Eyes was playing in the background, so I'm just like pretending that I can hear him and engaging him in conversation. And I get him up to dance, and so we're dancing on dance floor, and his whole family are like, oh, and I'm thinking, no sweat, this is easy. I'm an extrovert, I can get anyone to dance. So we're dancing away, and then we go to Denny's. That's where all Christians go if they don't... And drunk people, good mix, or drunk Christians. And so we were sitting there, and I was looking at him, looking at me. He's thinking I can't see him, but I can see him looking at me, seeing me, and I can just see that he's falling in love with me already. And so I'm sitting there, and we go home, and I've got all these texts. And they're like, so what do you think? And I realize, he's really boring, like, really? And so I just say, no, he's too soft for me. I'm a bit of a diva. I need someone who can love me, but put me in my place gently, without putting me down. Because I've had abuse and it didn't really work out that well. So just someone who can just talk to me and just say, settle down, donkey, settle down. And that's what I wanted. And anyway, my sisters are like, you're crazy, you're so crazy. This guy will love you forever. Anyway, so he went to his work and he told his boys, because apparently he stopped swearing at work and he was singing, and they're like, what the heaven happened to you? And he's like, oh, I met someone. And he goes, oh, hey. And he goes, yeah, she is beautiful. And I think he said, oh, I want her. No, I don't know. I'm just making it up. And then they're like, so what are you going to do? And he goes, what do you mean, what am I going to do? I was like, have you not watched any movies or why? And he goes, what do you mean? And they go, are you going to call her? Me? Call her? Really? I'm thinking, oh my gosh, thank goodness for unsaved friends. Anyway, he sent the flowers to my workplace, and, he called me, and this is a shy guy. But when he came to me and he said, I hate church. And I said to God, oh, hell no, not this again. Oh, sorry, oh, heaven, no, not this again. I said to the Lord, I've been there, I've been down this road, it was a big mess in my life, I'm not going down there. I have to marry somebody who loves you more than he loves me. No way, I'm not going there. And so I said to Nauma, me and God, we're a package deal, and I travel around preaching, so why don't you hang out with me, and if you like it, then we'll see where it goes. See, when you're 38, you don't really have the 16-year-old hang-ups anymore. Praise the Lord. So whether he said yay or nay, I was going to be cool about it. And Naoma hung around with me. And I remember on Guy Fawkes Day, 2016, we're sitting on the stairs, and he said to me, I want to give my life to Jesus. Yeah, yay. But you know what I said? Oh, hell no, you're not giving your life to Jesus because of me. Because then you'll take it away because of me. And you better be genuine, and you know what? Don't talk to me about it. Go find somebody because, and I was like, ah! And you know what the Holy Spirit said to me? Shut up. He didn't say, be now, be quieteth. He didn't even say silence. He knows me. He said, shut up. Like, and when I looked at Naoma, he had tears, and he was repenting. And so we just prayed together, and he gave his life to the Lord. And then I said to God, okay, I can't marry a baby Christian. Yeah, as if I was all there, as if I was super Christian. I can't marry a baby Christian because, Lord, me and you, we've got serious business to do, and I don't know how to do this with him, and blah, blah, blah. And so one night, I was driving around South Auckland, dropping off young people in my van as a youth leader. It doesn't matter how old you are, but if you've got a license and a vehicle, you're still a youth leader. Well, it is where I come from. And I just remember I started to cry, and I didn't understand why. So I had to pull over because my glasses were just fogging up. And then I remembered I was in Mangere, so I had to lock the doors. And then I went from crying to Māori lady at a tangi on a marae. Away! I'm such an embellisher of the story, I love it. And I'm just like bawling my eyes out, and I'm thinking, what the heaven is going on here? And I didn't understand it. And then God showed me. I had this round ball in my stomach, no joke. And he pulled it out, and it was disgusting. And I could just read two words, dirty and unworthy. And I'm just bawling my eyes out. I said, really, Dad, am I still carrying stuff from my first marriage? And he goes, no, that's not where it's from. And I looked at it, and he zoomed into my past when I was a little girl, and he showed me a work of abuse that had happened to me when I was really little, that I had completely forgotten. You know the psalm that this whole conference is based around? It says this, because your love is better than life, my lips will glorify you. As I looked at it, I thought, oh my gosh, I'd forgotten. And then I saw his hand become a beam of light, and it was pulsating with life. Zzz, zzz, zzz. And he just went, whoa. And then the ball became pulsating, just like his hand. And it had two new words. And it said, cleansed and honor. And he put it back in here. And then he said this to me, Naoma is my gift of love to you. Why couldn't you just send a card? Why couldn't you just send a prophet like you really had to deal? And you know what? When love comes to town, it comes today and goes to our yesterday and sets us up by healing us for our tomorrow. Excellent. Yeah, he knew that when I was born in the late 60s in a little village in Samoa where there was no hospital, he knew that he was going to use me as a voice of love and grace throughout the nation of New Zealand. He knew that he had a plan for me and that he was going to see me through a lot of brokenness, but he's also going to see me through a lot of healing. Are you with me? He knew that I was going to grow up and fight so many thoughts and feelings of inadequacy, and yet I was going to stand up with his love in me and courageously tell my story so that I can give you permission to say, it's going to be okay. You cry out to love, and love will respond to you. I'm just going to rewind the story a bit, keeping an eye on my time. So I'm the eldest of a family, in the Samoan family, 4 girls and an adopted little brother. And my dad was a Catholic and my mum was London Missionary Society. So he was a party boy and she was a party killer. So I learned in my culture and in my family how to wear many faces. So at school I was a straight A student. At home I was quiet but dying on the inside because I'm highly creative and I'm a huge extrovert. And when I was at church I was a Sunday school teacher, bilingual Sunday school teacher. And so at the age of 18, Youth for Christ came to our college and I gave my life to Jesus. I went back to the Catholic Church, that's where we were raised, and I said to God, how do I tell the Catholics about you? And he said, what do you love to do? And he said, I love to sing. And in our family, we were all raised singing, so all 4 of us girls know how to sing in harmony. So when we do hymns, we have to all have a separate part. And if we sing in unison, a jandal comes flying your way. And when the jandal hits you, you either go alto or you go soprano. So when it hits me, I'll just look at my other sister, you go down, I'll go up. And then we'll get a Band-Aid after. And so we're a singing family. And so we went and we lived in Mangere, so a lot of Pacific Islanders around, also at our Catholic church. So we started a singing group, a gospel group. And a lot of young people came. And a lot of young people got saved. And we didn't know how to baptize them, so we found a local Pentecostal church and gave them our kids, can you baptize them? And then bring them back. So they baptized them and took all our boys, because we didn't know that they were a kind of church that weren't really into women in leadership, but we were all women. I didn't know at the time. So they baptized them, gave us the girls and kept our boys. And I thought, you blessed people. It was during this time that I met my first husband. And being somebody who was brought up on lockdown, my heart was longing for something different. So my dad was often drunk, we often had no money, and my mum was always at work. And so my dad would have parties in our garage, so our house would be locked until everyone had left, and even my dad had to stay outside until he was sober, and then he was allowed back in the house. So it was really rough. There was arguments, never enough money, never enough food, and all that kind of stuff. And so enter my first husband, fresh out of prison. I know. Duh. So he was fresh out of prison, and he's what we call a freshie. So a freshie is someone straight from the islands, okay? So he's a freshie or a fob. Fob means fresh off the boat. I can't believe I'm schooling you in this. Oh my God, when my family hear this, they're going to say, why did you have to tell them that stuff? So anyway, but he was a freshie who grew up, who did work in Tokoroa. So he was a freshie with a Māori accent. I know, it was really wrong. And so he came and he said, shh. Is there a freshie laughing? So he just came and he goes, shh. I love you. You're pretty. I love you too. And so off I went with him. And that's where I started a life of being really emotionally abused. And I just remember I became a lot bigger than I am now. And so big that I was wearing what we call a mu'umu'u, or a muumuu, or if you go to a Samoan church, it's what the pastors' wives wear. I don't know why, they're ugly as. But apparently they're not allowed to wear makeup and earrings, but they wear these mu'umu'us that have frills. So you end up looking like SpongeBob with no neck. So that was me. And I was so depressed. And I went through this for a number of years. Things got so bad for us financially. Also in our culture, we lived in a converted garage, because you never really move out, you just add on a room to your house. Very Greek that way. No, actually the Greeks just buy a house next door, eh? Yeah, no, we didn't have those means. We just added something onto our house. And so we were living in the back, and my husband started getting involved with drugs and alcohol and gangs and stuff, and he would just take all our money. And it got so bad. I remember I was working at the time that I felt so desperate that I started to steal money from my employer. I know, not only am I divorced, but I have a criminal record. And anyway, so I started to steal money from my employer just because dangerous men were coming to us and knocking on the door and demanding, saying my husband owed this and my husband owed this. And, you know, I thought as long as I didn't talk about it, nobody knew about it. But you know how nobody talks about it, but everybody knows about it? Yeah. And so the more it happened, the less I spoke, and the harder it became. So the more I stole, the more I took money from my employer at the time. And 5 years later, you know, in this time, my sisters were going for God, and they asked me to come and pick them up from camp every year. But they would always ask me to come an hour earlier. I never clicked why. And so I would be sitting at the back of the church thinking, I always get sucked in. So I get there in time for half the message and the altar call. And I remember I just was watching these people speaking this funny language, and in my Catholic mindset going, they're crazy. And then I saw them all falling down, and this lady stood up and she looked at me and she made a beeline for me, and honestly, this is what I heard as she came. Dun-dun, dun-dun. And the closest she came was dun, 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 dun. And my heart started beating. And you know what I was thinking? If I fall, who's going to catch me? I had pictures of people, arms and legs, just coming out from underneath me. Like, where's the catcher? And I'll be like, don't go down, Jazz, because you're bigger than everyone. No one's gonna, don't go down. Boom, on the ground. And when I came to, people were like shouting at me, and I'm like, honestly, I want to say, shut up! They were freaking me out. And then I went out again, and when I came to, I stood up, this thing left me. And all of a sudden, I became so light. I felt complete freedom, and I had no idea what was happening. Anyway, me and God just got things back on track. I got things back on track with Jesus. I started to get promotions at work, and still nobody knew that I was stealing in the years previously. And so it was probably about 6 years later. I've been promoted now, and I'm management, and this is my thinking. My God has forgiven me, and I don't have to confess it. No deal. So 6 years later, I'm sitting there in my management role, and the police walk in. And the Holy Spirit says to me, this is it. Get ready. And I knew straight away that my time was up. And they called me to the office, and I sang like a bird, told them everything that had happened 6 years before. They put me in an interview room, and interview rooms have no telephones. And as they left me, they're not even supposed to leave me, they left me for probably like 4 or 5 minutes. As they left me, the walls just came down, and it grew really black, and I quickly made a plan, because I still had the van. And I said, I'll just drive my van off the bridge on the way home, because there's no way I'm taking this shame home to my mum and to my auntie. And there's no way that I'm going to let my sisters go through this embarrassment. That's it, all done deal. And I just it was almost like there was a contract, and I had just signed it. And as I opened my eyes after I'd made my plan, there was a telephone. I could see a telephone on the desk. And I'm not good with numbers. I don't even remember Naoma's number half the time. It's because smartphones are smart and they only have a name. So I just press the name. Hello. So I will never have to remember his number. But the only number that I could recall was my little sister, Genevieve. And so I rang Genevieve, and Genevieve's never at her desk. So I rang Genevieve, and she answered the phone. And I said, Jen. She goes, hi. I said, just answer my question quickly. And she goes, what is it? I said, I've done something really horribly wrong. I'm in trouble. Will you still love me? And she said, I will always love you. and we hung up. As soon as she said those words, the walls lifted, and I knew that I was going to be okay. I don't remember how I drove home, but I drove home and told my mum and my auntie, my old auntie, and I was on my knees, and I confessed, and we just cried. We just cried. I got sentenced, 2 years suspended sentence, 2 years to stay out of trouble, but I had to do 8 months periodic detention. And I remember standing in the court, and my church members were there, my pastor was there, my family were there, and everyone was crying. And I had the most articulate, eloquent judge ever. And she read my crime out so slowly and so clearly, just so everyone was clear what Jasmine did. And I wanted to hang my head in shame, but the Holy Spirit held my head up, the back of my neck, and I heard the Lord whisper to me, you need to face this just a little bit longer. It's almost done, honey. It's almost done. And as she finally finished and handed to me and spoke my sentence, the Lord released and said, I forgive you. And then I had to go wait at the back, and they closed the jail door, and I'm sitting there, and I am riddled with shame. 2 years later, when my sentence was up, I was on a mission trip in Fiji, and they were giving out our roles for the next thing. And they said, Jasmine, you're preaching at the women's prison. I said, oh, cool. What am I preaching? Your testimony. Not cool. That's embarrassing. Can I speak about something else? No, the women's prison. On the day that my sentence was up, I told my story at the Fijian women's prison in Suva. And everybody gave their lives to Jesus or renewed their lives. Yeah. And as I turned to leave, they came in and they asked me if I could stay a little bit longer. Because this is really weird, but in their prison, they have louver windows. I know, it's like you could just slide those things out. Not that I've done that before, but you know. How did you know that? It's okay, it's part of being a criminal. And so, it's a test that I took. And so they said outside the louver windows were all the staff, and they were in tears. So they had to take the women back in their cells, and the staff came, and we had to minister to the staff. How cool is that? That the whole of the Suva prison women, staff, and prisoners got touched by the Lord through a story. I'm standing before you to say that when love cries out to you, he cries out to you like this: I've got you. I love you. It doesn't matter how messy you are. Why don't you come out of who you think you are? Why don't you come out of your cultural context? Why don't you come out of your church? Come out of your thinking? Why don't you come out and come to me? And as you come to me and as you let me love you, you will find out who you really are. And love is crying out to us constantly, come, 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 let me heal you, let me restore you, let me build you, let me love you. And you know what? We have to respond. We need to go. And the more we go, the more free we become. And the more free we become, the more we become walking permission for everyone else to come. Love's crying out.
Excellent.
And all weekend, love's been crying out. And he cries out in the middle of our feelings of inadequacy. I was up in Walkworth last week. I was completely undone. I'm up there talking about healing and prophecy, and my sister's fighting for her life in Middlemore Hospital. And as I finished up my healing workshop, there's like heaps of messages. And as I heard a message, and it was like this: if she crashes again, there's nothing more we can do. And I'm just bawling my eyes out, waiting for people to come in and get prophecy. So people are coming in and I'm wiping my eyes because I've just been teaching about how God sends his word to heal. So I'm prophesying and I'm praying for healing. My sister is fighting for her life. I'm turned upside down. Walkworth undid me. I remember walking in the first night at Walkworth and I was so uncomfortable. That whole Walkworth trip for me was like, I don't know who I am anymore. And sometimes responding to his love is getting to a place where you are so undone, you don't know who you are. And we need to stop holding on to who we think we are. Because Jesus is the only one who knows what we're really made for and what we're made with. Are you with me? Yeah. You know, I wouldn't walk with what part of me being undone is I can't talk properly, I can't think properly. And I happen to be staying in the same place that Carl Martin was staying. Is he here? Please don't let him be here. Okay, cool. And I just remember he said to me one night, hey, are you going home? I said, yeah. He goes, oh, can I get a ride with you? And I was like, yeah, sure. I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to take Liam Neeson home. So I said, I wonder if he'll say to me, I will find you and I will kill you. But I thought, no, be sensible. He's a leader. He's a speaker. So I'm driving, and I've got 1,001 questions to ask him, but everything comes out making me feel like I'm dumb, you know? And so I'm just like driving, and I'm just like, so what do you do? Oh my gosh, what a dumb question. Anyway, and I don't know if I was awestruck or what, I don't know what it was, but it was mental. And so much so that I missed the street. And he goes, wasn't it that street? I said, sure. Reverse. No problem. And so I'm asking him all these questions, and it sounds so dumb. And in my mind's like, dumb, Jazz, what's going on? What's going on? And then I missed the other street. And he goes, it's over here, Jazz. Oh, yeah, I know that. So we go. And then I missed our driveway. I'm just, and I'm like, ah. So we're sitting in there, and he's like talking to me, and I'm just like, keep it cool, Jazz. Just take a deep breath. What is going on with you? And what I realized what was happening to me was I was completely out of my context. I'm from South Auckland, predominantly Pacific Island people. I come down to Wellington every month to do prophetic healing, and it's the same kind of people. And new wine has made me completely uncomfortable. It has made me see that I need to be more connected, that there's a bigger body of Christ out there, that I'm not just little old Jasmine. Yes, I said little. That I'm not just little old Jasmine, that I have a huge superpower from a super God. And I need to step out of myself and my little thinking and my little fears and step into a wider platform that many may be blessed.